pasaherong barko lumubog sa baybayin ng Indonesia.
Nakaligtas kaya ang lahat ng lulan ng barko? Detalye po sa lagay ng mga pasahero aming ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Martes.
National Security Council binalaan ang Beijing hinggil sa pagtatayo nito ng mga gusali sa Bajo de Masinloc.
Inflation rate ng Pilipinas bumagal sa 1.4% nitong Abril.
China umalma sa inilabas na videos ng United States Central Intelligence Agency laban sa Chinese Communist Party.
Israel gumanti sa pambobomba ng Yemen.
At Skype, opisyal ng isinara ng Microsoft. Binalaan po ng National Security Council or NSC ang China na magsisimula ng regional instability sa Indo-Pacific sa oras na magtayo ng gusali ang Beijing sa Scarborough Shoal o Bajo de Masinloc.
Ayon kay NSC Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya, itinuturing ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas na pagtawid sa red line o bagay na hindi pinahihintulutang mangyari ng bansa ang ganitong uri ng gawain ng China. Batay sa datos ng Pilipinas, dumoble ang bilang ng Chinese Coast Guard at mga militia vessels sa katubigan na malapit sa Bajo de Masinloc kumpara sa datos na naitala sa mga nakalipas na taon. May mga spekulasyon ding lumalabas na ang lumalaking presensya ng mga barko ng China sa West Philippine Sea ay bahagi umano ng isang malaking preparasyon ng Beijing para sakupin ang naturang pinag-aagawang teritoryo. Binigyan din naman ng NSC official ang polisiya na inilatag ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na hindi isusuko ng Pilipinas sa China ang kahit anong katiting na teritoryo nito sa West Philippine Sea. Ang Bajo de Masinloc ay nasa 124 nautical miles mula hilagang kanluran ng Masinloc sa Zambales. Samantala, tinatawag naman ito ng China na Huangyan daw bilang pag-aangkin nito sa nasabing isla.
Naitaboy naman po ng Philippine Coast Guard o PCG ang Chinese research vessel malapit sa Ilocos Norte. Kinumpirma ni PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, na nagsasagawa ng illegal marine scientific research ang research vessel ng China na Tansu 3 sa loob ng Exclusive Economic Zone or EEZ ng bansa. Giit ni Tariela, makokompromiso ang seguridad ng Pilipinas dahil malalaman ng China ang seabed ng bansa mula sa deep sea mapping capabilities ng research vessel para sa isang submarine deployment. Unang namataan ng PCG ang Tanso 3 nitong May 1 sa layong 92 nautical miles ang baybayin ng Burgos, Ilocos Norte. Sa ngayon, wala pang pahayag ang Chinese Embassy na Manila hinggil sa nasabing issue.
Bumagal sa 1.4% ang naitalang headline inflation ng Pilipinas nitong buwan ng Abril, ayon po yan sa Philippine Statistics Authority o PSA. Tinukoy ni National Statistician Claire Dennis Mapa na mas mababa ang naturang inflation rate kumpara sa naitala na 1.8% noong Marso. Paliwanag ni Mapa, may ambag sa naturang pagbaba ng inflation rate ang mabagal na pagtaas ng presyo ng food and non-alcoholic beverages at oil products. Malaki rin ang epekto ng food inflation sa pagbagal ng headline inflation. Tinawag naman na manageable ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas o BSP ang latest inflation data dahil sa consistent na trend nito sa loob ng forecast ng Central Bank. Ang target range kasi ng Bangko Sentral para sa Abril o April inflation ay nasa pagitan ng 1.3% at 2.1%. Umaasa naman ang BSP na magpapatuloy ang ganitong balanse na inflation rate trend hanggang 2027.
Dineklara po ng Malacanang na special non-working holiday ang May 12, araw ng Lunes. Ito ay upang bigyan daan ang pagboto ng mga o ng sambayanang Pilipino para sa midterm elections. Ninagdaan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang Proclamation number 878 kasunod ng request ng Commission on Elections o COMELEC na gawing national holiday ang May 12.
Inaresto ng mga tauhan ng Bureau of Immigration si Makoto Shinoda sa Terminal 3 ng Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Pasakay na sana ng eroplano patungong Abu Dhabi si Shinoda nang lumabas sa derogatory record system ng immigration na nasa watchlist pala siya ng ahensya. Wanted for deportation ang nasabing Japanese national dahil sa pagiging undesirable alien. Sinampahan ng kaso si Shinoda ng dalawa ring Japanese nationals dahil sa umunoy panloloko at pagtangay nito ng kanilang investment na higit sa $1 milyong. Kinumbinsi umano sila ni Shinoda na mamuhunan sa isang real estate project sa Bacoor City, Cavite na hindi naman natapos. Mananatili ang suspect sa detention facility ng immigration sa Camp Bagong Diwa habang naghihintay ng resulta ng kanyang deportasyon.
Naging emosyonal si senatorial candidate Rodante Marcoleta dahil po sa nakitang suporta sa kanyang pagtakbo kahit na sa mga kabataan at mga mahihirap nating mamamayan. Aminado naman si Marcoleta ang malaking kaibahan anya ang karanasan sa ginawa niyang pag-iikot ngayon kumpara sa mga nakaraang eleksyon. Si Weng de la Fuente po sa Balita Exclusive.
Marcoleta, may pag-asa pa!
Humbling experience para kay senatorial candidate Rodante Marcoleta ang matatapos na kampanya para sa May 12 national at local elections. Sarap ito ng bumubuhos na suporta sa kanyang kandidatura mula sa iba't ibang sektor maging na mga dating galit sa kanya.
Si Dante Marcoleta hindi naman politiko Si Dante Marcoleta ay isang public servant na nakita nila. Nasama lang ako sa mekanismo, nasama lang ako sa pamamaraan. Ngunit si Dante Marcoleta ay palaging iisa ang salita at maraming tao nang nakapagpatunay nito.
Malaking kaibahan din anya ang karanasan sa ginawa niyang pag-iikot ngayon kumpara sa mga nakaraang eleksyon. Mas naunawaan na raw ngayon ng mamamayan ang pangangailangang pumili ng kandidatong makatutugon sa mga problema ng lipunan.
Mas nakita ko yung pagtanggap ng tao. Unti-unti parang nabubuksan ang isip ng mga tao na kailangan na nila talagang pumili. Na hindi pala biro-biro lang o basta-basta lang may maisip ka lang na iboto, nakasalig pala dyan. May kaugnayan pala dyan kung magbabago ang patakaran at pamamahala sa isang bansa.
Emosyonal din si Marcoleta dahil sa nakitang suporta kahit nasa mga kabataan at mga mahihirap na mamamayan.
Nakakita ako ng mga pamamaraang hindi ko pa nakita sa buong buhay ko. Meron akong isang nakitang batang high school. Meron siyang backpack. Pero nakadikit sa kanyang backpack ay isang YouTube na piniplay yung Hey Marcoleta. Dumadaan siya sa mga lagusan, mga eskinita at mga palengke. At tuloy-tuloy niyang pinaririnig yung jingle na Hey Marcoleta. Isang bagay na... At pagkatapos ay sinagot yun ng napakarami. Nagpakita kahit ng mga tricycle, mga iba't ibang paraan. Nakita ko pa yung nagtitinda ng sorbetes. Talagang habang siya ay nagtitinda ng sorbetes, nakita ko yung tarpaulin na nasa harap ng kanyang itinutulak na parang kariton.
Sa Philippine Arena at sa Philippine Stadium idinaos ang meeting de avance ngayon ni Congressman Marcoleta. Weng de la Fuente para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, China binatikos ang umano'y propaganda video ng CIA.
Prince Harry, nagsimula na naman ng royal drama laban sa kanyang pamilya.
At Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu nais ng sakupin ang Gaza. Detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alcatraz construct.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Hindi kinatuwa ng gobyerno ng China ang inilabas na videos ng Central Intelligence Agency o CIA, ang opisyal na Foreign Intelligence Service ng Estados Unidos. Target ng CIA videos na akitin ng mga opisyal ng China na magtrabaho at mag-espiya para sa US. Dahil rito, nagbabala ang China na gagawin ito ang lahat ng kinakailangang hakbang para sumpuin ang umano'y panghihimasok at pananabotahin ang mga dayuhang puwersa na laban sa China. Tinawag din ni Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian na isang seryosong paglabag sa pambansang interes ng China ang nilalaman ng CIA videos. Hindi lamang aniya malisyosong maninira at inaatake ng Estados Unidos ang China, kundi tahasan din umanong nililinlang nito at inaakit ang mga tauhan ng Beijing na tumalikod sa kanilang panig.
中方将采取一切必要措施，坚决打击境外反华势力的渗透破坏活动，坚定维护国家主权、发展、安全利益。
Inakusahan pa ng Chinese spokesperson ng Estados Unidos ng pagnanakaw ng mga sikreto ng ibang bansa at panghihimasok sa internal affairs ng ibang estado.
长期以来，美方使用各种卑劣的手段，窃取他国机密，干涉他国内政，颠覆他国政权，严重违背国际法和国际关系基本准则，严重危害国际安全 和稳定。美国中央情报局在社交媒体发布的视频，是又一份证据确凿的自供状。
Kahit nagbabala ang Pakistan, sinuspindi pa rin ng India ang Indus Water Treaty at isinara na ang mga gate ng Baglihar Dam at Salal Dam. Dahil po dito, natuyo ang tubig ng Chenab River. Mahalaga ang ilog na ito para sa mga magsasaka ng Pakistan. Sa katunayan, 80% ng kanilang patubig sa palayan ay nagmumula sa Chenab River. Ginagamit din ng Pakistan ang naturang river system para sa kanilang hydropower. Nais ang Pakistan magkaroon ng isang neutral expert and arbitration court na mamamagitan sa kanila ng India. Wala namang reaksyon ng gobyerno ng New Delhi sa pahayag ng Islamabad. Matatanda ang sinabi ng India na ang pagsuspindi ng Indus Waters Treaty ay bahagi ng mga hakbang para ibaba ang diplomatikong relasyon nito sa Pakistan dahil sa Kashmir attack na ikinamatay ng 26 na katao.
Kaugnay naman ang eskalasyon ng tensyon sa pagitan ng India at Pakistan, sinabi ni United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres na dapat iwasan hanggat maaari ang komprontasyong militar. Ito ay dahil posibleng mauwi ang tensyon sa hindi makontrol na sitwasyon. Si Anjo Milano para sa karagdagang detalye.
Noong Lunes, nagsagawa ang Pakistan ng ikalawang missile test sa loob ng 3 araw matapos sabihing naghahanda ito sa pagsalakay ng India. Kaugnay ito ng babala ni Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi na ang standoff sa Karasan sa Kashmir ay hahadlang sa reformang pang-ekonomiya ng Islamabad. Dahil sa eskalasyon, sinabi ni UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres na hindi tama na targetin ang mga sibilyan. Anya dapat huwag paabutin sa military confrontation ang umiinit na tensyon sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa.
Tensions between India and Pakistan are at their highest in years. I deeply respect and I am profoundly grateful to the government of people of both countries and their significant contributions to the work of the United Nations, not least UN peacekeeping. And so it pains me to see relations reaching a boiling point. I understand the raw feelings following the awful terror attack in Pahalgam on 22 April. I once again strongly condemn that attack and extend my condolences to the families of the victims. Targeting civilians is unacceptable, and those responsible must be brought to justice through credible lawful means. It is also essential, especially at this critical hour, to avoid a military confrontation that could easily spin out of control.
Dagdag ni Guterres, hindi solusyon ang aksyong militar. Iniaalok din ito ang serbisyo ng kanyang tanggapan sa pagkamit ng kapayapaan.
Now is the time for maximum restraint and stepping back from the brink. That has been my message in my ongoing outreach with both countries. Make no mistake, a military solution is no solution. And I offer my good offices to both governments in the service of peace. The United Nations stands ready to support any initiative that promotes de-escalation, diplomacy, and the renewed commitment to peace. Thank you.
Sumama ang relasyon ng dalawang magkalapit bansa na kapwa may kapasidad pang nuklear nang patayin ng mga armadong kalalakihan ang 26 na katao noong 22 ng Abril. Inatake ng mga ito ang mga turistang Hindu sa Indian Kashmir, sa Baisaran Valley. Sinasabing ito ang pinakamatinding pagsalakay ng mga sibilyan sa India sa loob ng 2 dekada. Inakusahan ng India ang Pakistan na sangkot ito sa pananalakay. Itinanggi naman ito ng Islamabad at sinabing may impormasyon ito na layon ng New Delhi na maglunsad ng aksyong militar laban sa bansa. Kaugnay ng sagutang diplomatiko at palitan ng putok, na alarma ang mga leader ng iba't ibang bansa, hindi lamang sa rehiyon kundi sa buong mundo. Anjo Milano para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sinabi ni South Korean former Minister Han Duck-soo na isang malaking pagtataksil sa mga tao kung tatakbo siyang hiwalay kay dating Labor Minister Kim Won-soo. Si Kim ay pinili po ng Conservative People Power Party bilang kandidato nito sa nalalapit na halalan sa South Korea. Sa ngayon ay nangunguna sa survey si Lee Jae-myung, ang kandidato naman ng Democratic Party. Ito ang dahilan kung kaya iniiwasan ng Conservative Party na mag-endorso ng isa pang kandidato para hindi mahati ang boto at masiguro na mananalo ang kanilang partido sa June 3. Kaugnay po nito, kumpiyansa si Han na siya ang the best na makapagbibigay ng solusyon sa isyu ng kalakalan.
Ayon sa election observers at analysts, sumaharap ngayon ang bansang Romania sa online disinformation. Kumalat nila ang fake news na sumusuporta sa mga partidong politikal. Raisa Mangilit para sa balita.
Sa unang round ng eleksyon noong linggo, natiyak ni hard-right Eurosceptic George Simeon ang 41% ng boto, 5 buwan matapos siyang malamangan ng isa pang far-right candidate na si Călin Georgescu. Pinawalang bisa ang balota ni Georgescu dahil sa mga hinalang pinakialaman ito ng Russia. Haharap si Simeon kay Bucharest Mayor Nico Jordan, isang independent centrist, sa 18 ng Mayo sa isang European Union at NATO member state runoff. Itinanggi ng Moscow na sangkot ito sa pagbukso ng aktibidad sa TikTok at iba pang social media platforms noong nakaraan taon na pabor kay Georgescu. Noong Lunes, sinabi ng Kremlin na basta-basta na lang pinatalsik sa laban si Georgescu. Ayon sa mga autoridad ng Romania at TikTok, naglagay na ang mga ito ng mga pangontra sa disinformation online. Subalit nagbukas ang European Commission ng formal proceedings laban sa TikTok dahil sa suspetsya nito kakulangan limitahan ang pangingialam sa botohan noong Nobyembre. Ayon kay political analyst Soren Ionita, dumami ang pagkalat ng hindi makatotohanan ng social media networks na sumusuporta sa mga partidong politikal.
Since November, every party is copying actually Georgescu, what they were doing. So we see it's like Disinformation 2.0 in the sense it's not so much the narrative or the content, but is in inauthenticity of the whole network of bots, because these are bots definitely, or whole list, thousands or tens of thousands of dormant accounts which are non-political, like a lady with a nail salon, or somebody commenting on football, or somebody on cars, and suddenly you politicize them.
Magkahalong retorikang makabayan at emosyonal na paghahatid ang dala ng TikTok films ni Simeon. Gamit nito ang tinatawag na direct-to-camera speeches at footage mula sa political gatherings. Gayon din ang behind-the-scenes clips upang humubog ng tila personal na koneksyon. Ayon kay Ionita, ito ay recipe na perpekto na ni Georgescu at kinokopya niya ito ng iba pang partidong politikal.
We can expect even more, because this is what we saw since the cancelled elections in November. So it was mostly the sovereignists who were anti-system, who were exploiting very much. Not to mention, 1 year ago, before the European elections in June 24, it was all the mainstream parties were traditional campaigning. It was just the radicals on TikTok, and it looks like something very exotic. Okay, these guys are doing social media. Let's see, maybe they have some impact, and then they had an impact, and then after November, everybody started to copy them. He created a paradigm, and that is that of a guru of a sect. So his rhetoric was very much a kind of social Christian mission, It was not like an ordinary politician. So Simeon, who was not like that, he's actually a football fan hooligan. This is how they started, actually, from this environment. He is trying to borrow, this image, this posture, this kind of rhetoric, apparently with some success so far. So this is what he will probably try to do even better for the second round.
Ayon sa Telegram, hindi ito epektibong plataporma para sa pagpapakalat ng peking impormasyon dahil hindi anya ito gumagamit ng algorithms upang isulong ang makapukaw damdaming content. Dagdag pa ng Telegram, tumatanggap lamang ang users nito ng content na kanilang sinubscribe. Ayon pa kay Ionita, marami sa kaduda-dudang content sa online accounts ay sumasalamin sa totoong galit sa lipunan.
Then external meddling, yes, probably it is, because if Russia is everywhere in the region, why would they spare Romania, right? So it's common sense. They probably amplify the noise, but the noise is mostly generated internally, as I said. They probably put some bitcoins in the sound machine.
Raisa Mangilit para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Bigo pong masungkit ni German conservative leader Friedrich Merz ang kailangan majority vote para maging chancellor ng Germany. Kailangan ni Merz ang 316 majority votes mula sa 630 votes ng lower house of parliament. Subalit kinapos pa siya ng 6 na boto dahil 310 votes lamang ang kanya nakuha sa secret ballot noong unang round ng botohan. May 14 na araw ang ang Bundestag para maihalal si Merz o mamimili ito ng isa pang kandidato na iluluklok ni Chancellor na may outright majority.
Dinismiss na isang appeals court sa London ang kaso ni Prince Harry. Matatandaang tinanggalan ng personal na security na Harry at Meghan Markle dahil bumaba na sila sa kanilang royal duties. Pero ayon kay Harry, mali ang naging hakbang ng RAVEC na tanggalin siya at ang kanyang pamilya ng personal security. Sumang-ayon si Judge Jeffrey Voss na nakaramdam ang Duke of Sussex ng hindi magandang pagtrato ng sistema. At hindi niya masabi na ang naramdamang grievance ni Harry ay may isasalin sa isang legal na argumento para hamunin ang desisyon ng RAVEC. Ibinatay ni Judge Voss ang kanyang desisyon sa mga detalye na isinumiting dokumentasyon ng mga abogado ni Harry. Naglabas naman ang official statement si Harry sa kanyang website at sinabing ikinalungkot nito ang pagkakadismiss ng kanyang apela. Mahihirapan anya siyang patawarin ang naturang desisyon. Muli rin niyang sinabi na hindi niya madadala ang kanyang pamilya sa Britanya dahil hindi sa issue ng seguridad.
Mismo namang si British Prime Minister Keir Starmer ang nanguna sa Tea Party ng Victory in Europe o VE Day. Ginanapan ang sabing selebrasyon sa labas ng kanyang opisina sa 10 Downing Street itong Lunes. Dumalo ang maraming veterano ng World War II at iba pang bisita na ikinatuwa naman ni Starmer. VE Day ang araw na sumuko ang Germany sa Allied Powers. Bukod sa United Kingdom, ipinagdiriwang din ng France, Estados Unidos at Russia ang VE Day.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ng United Nations na hindi makatao at peligro sa mga sibilyan ang mungkahing aid plan ng Israel para sa Gaza. Narito ang report ni Anna Cui.
Noong Lunes, nagbabala ang UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs o OCHA sa Gaza na lumalala ang sitwasyon sa teritoryo. At anumang plano ukol sa humanitarian aid ng Israel ay hindi anya makatao at mapanganib sa mga sibilyan doon. Ayon sa ahensya, hindi nakakatulong ang pagharang ng Israel sa tulong na ngayon ay nasa ika-9 na linggo na.
So the plan that we were briefed on by the Israeli authorities looks to establish hubs through which aid would be delivered. This contravenes humanitarian principles as this would basically shut down the existing aid delivery mechanism that already operates within the bounds of humanitarian principles. This would violate the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence, and could also put people at risk by, including aid workers, by having them around these militarized zones.
Ayon sa mga residente, dahil sa kasalatan, napipilitan na silang kumain ng hindi naman dapat kainin ng tao.
ما فيش أكل ما فيش شرب ما فيش أي شيء مساعدات بخش علينا ولا حاجة. هذا أنا اللي بنقي فيه برغل مع رز مع حجار هي الحجار بناكل فيه عشان من قلة الطحين والأكل والشرب. فيش أي شيء بتخش علينا ولا أي مساعدة ولا حاجة ولا زي ما أنت شايف قاعد بنقي فيه عشان أسكت أولادي فيه. الأولاد طول النهار يصيحوا فيش أكل ما فيش شرب. هذا أكل طيور لا يستحق نطبخ ولا ناكله. هذا صرنا إحنا نطبخ الأولاد نسكت الأولاد الصغار فيه. هذا للعصافير مش إلنا عشان الصغار طول النهار بتصرخوا ما فيش أكل ما فيش شرب كله نار ومولع ولا أي شيء بنشوف.
Para sa marami, pagod na sila sa sitwasyon at nagmamakaawang isalba na sila ng mga kalapit bansa.
يعني الأطفال ذهبوا احنا كبار السن بنمشي في الشارع ما بنقدرش نمشي يعني علاجات فيش طحين فيش خضره غاليه نشتري حبه بندوره الحبه ايش ب5 شيكل راس بصل ب5 شيكل خياره ب5 شيكل يعني العيشه هنا صعب كثير وبناشد الدول العربيه تطلع علينا بعين تطلع علينا يا عالم انجدونا احنا في غزه ضايعين 200 من الجوع.
Noong Lunes, nagbabala si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na mas matindi ang pinalawak na opensiba nito laban sa Palestinian militant group Hamas. Ito ay matapos aprubahan ng kanyang Security Cabinet ang mga planong sakupin ng Gaza at kontrolin ang pamamahagi ng tulong. Dagdag ng OCHA, labag sa prinsipyo ng neutralidad at kasarinlan ang pagbuo ng aid hubs at mapanganib-anya ito para sa mga sibilyan.
So we have made it very clear that the mechanism, this plan that was presented, is not in line with the humanitarian principles, and giving more operational control to a party to the conflict would risk aid not reaching the vulnerable people who actually need this aid the most.
Anakwi para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa labas ng parlamento ng Israel, nagkaroon ng enkwentro ang mga pulis at mga demonstrador na laban sa administrasyon ni Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Narito ang report ni Chantel Santos.
Sa Jerusalem, nagsalpukan ng Israeli pulis at mga nagpoprotesta laban sa hakbang ng gabinete ng Israel ukol sa pagpapatindi ng opensiba nito sa Gaza. Ayon sa mga demonstrador na nasa labas ng parlamento, sawang-sawa na sila sa labanan na ayaw matapos.
We don't want to fight a war that only keeps Netanyahu in power. We want the hostages back. We want our soldiers back. Our kids are being sent to a purposeless war.
Dagdag pa ng mga nagpoprotesta, iisa lamang ang nakikinabang sa labanan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas.
We would like to see all the hostages back as soon as possible. We don't agree with the war that is for the benefit of the dictator and not benefit of all of us.
Akusasyon ng mga nangangalit na mamamayan ng Israel na buhay ng mga bihag ang kapalit ng kagustuhan ng lider nilang manatili sa pwesto.
Now, Bibi, a corrupt and criminal leader, which only wants to stay in his throne. He only wants to be in reign, and he doesn't care if Israel burns to the ground on the way. He is sacrificing the hostages. He is sacrificing our sons and daughters, which are combat soldiers, which are going into Gaza and will die in vain.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na matindi ang pinalawak na opensiba ng bansa laban sa Hamas. Inaprobahan na rin ng gabinete ng Israel ang mga plano ng kabilang ang maaaring pagsakop nito sa Gaza at pagkontrol ng humanitarian aid papasok ng teritoryo. Subalit ayon sa isang Israeli defense official, hindi mailulunsad ang operasyon ng bansa bago matapos ang pagbisita ni US President Donald Trump sa gitnang silangan sa darating na linggo. Chantel Santos para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Naglunsad ng airstrike ang Israel laban sa mga Houthi rebels sa Yemen. Isinagawa ng Israel ang nasabing atake isang araw matapos tamaan ng Houthi missiles ang kanilang paliparan. Aabot sa 30 mga fighter jets ang ginamit ng Israel para paulanan ng missiles ang Yemen. Una nang sinabi ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na hindi nila palalampasin ang nasabing ginawang atake na ito ng Houthi rebels.
As far as the trade routes, obviously we're being challenged. The whole world is being challenged by the Houthis, including in the dastardly attack they did today near Ben Gurion Airport. We will not tolerate it. We will take very strong action against them. And we always remember that they act with their patron Iran's direction and support. We will do what we need to do to take care of our security, to respond effectively, and to give Iran a due warning that this cannot continue.
Kinundi na naman ng Hamas ang ginawang pag-atake ng Israel sa Yemen kung saan marami ang nadamay. Habang hugas kamay naman ang Iran at sinabing wala silang partisipasyon sa hidwaan ng Israel at Yemen.
همه اتهام‌هایی که و ادعاهایی که در رابطه با فعالیت‌های یمنی‌ها مطرح میشه علیه جمهوری اسلامی ایران بی اساس است و واقعا در جهت فرافکنی و تحت الشعاع قرار دادن مشکل و معضل اصلی منطقه که همون ادامه نسل‌کشی در غزه و فلسطین هست.
Magugunit ang tinamaan ng Israel ang Hodeidah kung saan tinarget nila ang concrete factory doon na nagsusuporta sa mga Houthi military industries.
Dumalo si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sa Tel Aviv District Court upang tumestigo sa paglilitis ng korte. Inakusahan si Netanyahu ng katiwalian, panunuhol, pandaraya at breach of trust. Itinanggi niya ang lahat ng mga nasabing paratang at nag-plead din ng not guilty. Hiniling din niya sa korte na ihinto muna ang kanyang pagtestimonya ngayong Martes dahil may dadaluhan siyang political discussion.
Nanindigan si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na ang prioridad nila ay ang sakupin ang teritoryo ng Gaza.
אתמול בלילה ישבנו עד שעה מאוחרת בקבינט והחלטנו על פעולה עצימה בעזה. זו הייתה המלצת הרמטכ"ל, ללכת, כפי שהוא אמר, להכרעה של החמאס, ובדרך הוא חושב שזה יסייע לנו גם לחלץ את החטופים, ואני מסכים איתו. אנחנו לא מרפים מהמאמץ הזה ולא נוותר על אף אחד.
Bagamat hindi niya ikinaila na target nilang makalayang natitirang 59 na mga bihag ng mga Hamas, ay mahalaga sa gyera ang talunin ang mga kalaban. Ito ang unang pagkakataon na binanggit ni Netanyahu sa publiko na sa ngayon ay ang pangunahing intensyon na ng Israeli Army at ang Israeli Defense Force ay tuluyang pagkawala ng teritoryo ng Palestine.
דבר אחד יהיה ברור, לא ייכנסו ויצאו. נגייס מילואים כדי שיבואו יתפסו שטח, אנחנו יוצאים מהשטח, רק אנחנו עושים פשיטות ממה שנשאר, אנחנו לא שם, זו לא הכוונה.
אוקיי.
הכוונה הפוכה. תהיה הנאה של האוכלוסייה כדי להגן עליה.
Marami naman sa far-right parties ang nagboses ng kanilang suporta para sa pagbago ng pananaw ng Israeli PM ukol sa rehiyon.
אנחנו הולכים לכבוש את רצועת עזה, סוף סוף, מפסיקים לפחד מהמילה כיבוש. אנחנו כובשים את רצועת עזה, מטהרים אותה, שולטים בכל השטחים שאנחנו נכנסים אליה. סוף סוף, אחרי שנה וחצי שאני צועק את זה בכתב בעל פה מעל כל בנה, משתלטים על הסיוע ההומניטרי כדי שהוא לא יהפוך לאספקה לוגיסטית שמגיעה לחמאס. אנחנו מפרידים בין חמאס לאוכלוסייה ולסיוע ההומניטרי, מחסלים אותו, מכריעים אותו, מכניעים אותו ומשיבים את החטופים. זו הדרך היחידה.
Umani naman ang negatibong komento ang pahayag na ito ni Netanyahu, lalo na sa mga pamilya ng mga bihag.
Lalong pinalakas ng Estados Unidos ang reinforcement nito sa Mexico border. Nilagyan nila ng bagong barbed fire ang kahabaan ng Ciudad Juarez. Ilang oras lamang matapos tanggihan ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum ang alok ni US President Donald Trump na magpapadala ito ng mga sundalo sa border para supuin ang bentahan ng mga droga roon. Ayon kay Trump, magsasagawa siya ng unilateral military action kung hindi gagawa ng paraan ng gobyerno ng Mexico na buwagin ang mga drug cartel.
Hindi pabor ang mga turista sa Alcatraz sa plano ni US President Donald Trump na gamiting muli ang bilangguan sa isla. Si Yolanda Aspiras para sa detalye.
Ang Alcatraz ay isa sa pinakapopular na destinasyon ng mga turista sa San Francisco, California. Noong Lunes, ipinahayag sa mga bisita ng atraksyong ito na hindi sila sang-ayon sa plano ni Pangulong Donald Trump ng US na buksang muli ang kilalang island prison. Ayon kay Wendy Lara ng Woodland, California, nakakagalit ang ganitong mga pahayag.
Just think it's silly, because there's so many more things that actually need to be done, that this is just like a look at me over here while they're doing something over here, or they're not taking care of what needs to be taken care of. It makes me angry.
Para naman kay Cindy Lacam ng Phoenix, Arizona, hindi magandang idea ang ibalik sa dating gamit ang kulungan.
I don't think it's going to be a great idea for the amount of work that this would have to be. This is a national monument in some ways, so it'd be not so nice to have it turned back into a prison. It's nice to have it as being able to see what it used to be like.
Ayon naman kay Mike Forbes na dating gwardiya sa bilangguan, dapat manatili sa nakaraan ang nakaraan.
I think more so it needs to remain a part of history. I'm a former prison guard, and rehabilitation is real. Punishment is best left to.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ni Trump ang plano nitong pagbubukas ng Alcatraz ay bahagi ng pagtutok sa batas at kaayusan ng bansa. Ayon sa Pangulo, ang kulungan sa San Francisco Bay ay tila nakamamangha at kumakatawan sa isang bagay na kapwa kakilakilabot at kaganda-ganda. Noong linggo sa kanyang Truth Social site, sinabi ni Trump na aatasan nito ang Federal Bureau of Prisons na ayusin at buksang muli ang Alcatraz para doon ikulong ang pinakamalilipit at pinakamarahas na may sala. Yolanda Aspiras para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Naglabas si US President Donald Trump ng isang executive order na naglilimita sa federal government na maglabas ng pondo para sa scientific study na tinatawag na gain of function research. Ang nasabing pananaliksik na kilala rin bilang dual-use research ay pag-eksperimento sa mga virus at iba pang mga pathogens na may potensyal na mag-trigger ng isang pandemya. Ang pag-aaral na ito ay pagtuklas kung paanong nagiging transmissible or nakakahawa po ang mga infectious agents na dahilan ng pagkakasakit ng isang tao. Pinaniniwalaan ng maraming experts na ang gain of function research ang siyang nag-trigger ng COVID-19 pandemic na ikinamatay ng milyong-milyong katao sa buong mundo. Susunod, pampasaherong barko sa Indonesia, lumubog.
Skype official nang magsasara.
And Asian Games gold medalist Mikey Jaworski napili bilang Olympic Coordination Commissioner. Mga detalye po ng mga balita yan at iba pa mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Ngayong eleksyon, hatid ng NET25 News and Information ang malawak na pagbabantay sa boto ng bayan. Mula botohan hanggang bilangan. Kasama ang mga pangalang may prinsipyo at paninindigan. Matatag, matapang at matapat. Mula Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Sama-sama tayong maging mata ng halalan.
Ramdam na ang tindi ng init ng araw. Para masigurong protektado ang ating kalusugan ngayong tag-init, narito ang ilang tips mula sa Department of Health. Kung maaari, huwag munang lumabas ng bahay tuwing matindi ang tirik ng araw. Siguraduhin din na lagi tayong nakakainom ng tubig, gumamit ng payong at sombrero, magdala din ng pamaypay. At para laging cool, samahan ng masayang talakayan ni Ali Soto at Pat P. Daza dito sa ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo? Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga, dito lamang sa NET25.
Together sa NET25.
Namang pinaghahanap ng mga otoridad ang dalawang pasahero ng lumubog na ferry sa katubigan ng Penajam East, Kalimantan ng Indonesia. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, may kargang 44 na katao ang barko, kabilang na ang 23 pasahero at 21 crew members bago ang insidente. Kinumpirma ni Region Disaster Management Agency Muhammad Sukadi Konkoro na nagkaroon ng engine failure sa kaliwang makina ng barko at nadiskubre rin na nasira ang propeller axle nito. Nagsagawa naman ng hiwalay ng investigasyon ng pulisya para alamin kung may nilabag itong safety precautions.
Nagdulot ng panik sa mga bisita ng isang amusement park ang nasunog na park ride sa Guangxi, China. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nabalot ng apoy at makapal na usok ang 80-foot tall na bungee jumping machine ng parke. Dahil rito, persahang inilikas ng staff ng amusement park ang mga bisita para sa kanilang kaligtasan. Rumisponde naman ang mga bumbero sa site para apulahin ang apoy. Wala namang nasaktan o nasawi sa trahedya. Batay sa investigasyon ng pulisya, pinaniniwala ang na-short circuit sa wire ng park rides ang sanhi ng sunog. Pansamantala naman na isinarang naturang seksyon ng parke para isailalim ito sa maintenance.
Pinatumba ng malakas na hangin ang isang malaking billboard sa Ningxia, China. Makikita po yan sa video na yan na unti-unting nayuyupi ang malaking billboard hanggang sa bumagsak na ito sa mga nakaparadang sasakyan. Maraming mga tao ang nagsipulasan papalayo ng malaking karatula. Wala namang napaulat na nasaktan sa nasabing insidente. Iniimbestigahan naman ng mga pulis ang pagbagsak ng billboard at inaalam kung may naganap bang korupsyon sa pagpapatayo nito. Nataon na binayo ng malalakas na hangin at mapagsugsong pagulan ng China na iniuugnay naman ng mga meteorologists na sanhi ng climate change. Samantala, sugatan ng isang babae sa Vietnam matapos suwagin siya ng isang ligaw na kalabaw. Makikita po sa dashcam video na kalmadong naglalakad ang kalabaw sa gilid ng kalsada ng Quang Ninh nang bigla nitong sinugod ang walang kamalay-malay na babae. Mapapansin din kinaladkad pa ng hayop ang kaawa-awang babae sa sahig. Buti na lamang ay tumulong ang may-ari ng dashcam footage para sagipin ang babae. Kaagad namang dumating ang animal control para mahuli ang kalabaw. Maliwanag ng mga eksperto, maaaring mang-atake ang mga kalabaw kapag pakiramdam nila ay nasa peligro sila o kaya naman ay tuwing pinoprotektahan nila ang kanilang mga anak.
Binili ng US DoorDash ang UK Deliveroo sa halagang 2.9 billion pounds o $3.85 billion. Malaki ang maitutulong ng nasabing buyout sa DoorDash dahil lalago ang market share nito sa Europa at makakaya nitong tapatan ng Just Eat at Uber Eats. Ito ay dahil sa may market shares ang Deliveroo sa Britain, Ireland, France at Italy. Sinabi ng ilang media sources na walang kakaharaping problema sa regulatory ang DoorDash dahil wala itong presensya sa 10 market ng Deliveroo. Opisyal na pong isinara ng Microsoft ang 2 decades old na internet calling service nito na Skype. Noong 2003, sinimula ng Microsoft ang audio at video calls para kalabanin ang landline industry. Pero sa kabila nito, naging malaking hamon sa platform ang pagdating ng mga karibal nito katulad ng Zoom at Slack. Sa kabila nito, hindi na naglabas ang Microsoft ng latest figures ng Skype at kinumpirma na walang magaganap na job layoffs sa kumpanya. Itinalaga bilang bagong chair ng International Olympic Commission Coordination Commission para sa 2032 Olympic Games sa Brisbane, Australia, si Pinay sports official Mikey Jaworski. Ayon sa International Olympic Committee o IOC, ang pagkakatalaga kay Jaworski ay kasunod ng pagkabakante sa pwesto ni Christy Coventry noong siya'y mahalal bilang bagong IOC President. Si Jaworski Jaworski ay miyembro ng IOC Executive Board mula pa noong 2020. Dagdag pa ng IOC na siya ang namamahala sa pagplano para maisakatuparan ng Olympic Games Brisbane 2032. Naging gold medalist siya ng 2002 Asian Games at nagsanay siya ng mahigit 20 years sa Australia ng 3-time Olympian Vicky Roycroft. Naging coordination commission na rin ito sa Olympic Games sa Tokyo 2020, Paris 2024 at Brisbane 2032. Dahil sa kanyang pagkakatalagay, pamumunuan na niya ang paparating na coordination commission meeting sa Brisbane mula May 20 hanggang May 22. Susunod, Lego models na F1 cars binuo para sa Miami Grand Prix.
Police dog nagnakaw ng sausage sa gitna ng patrol duty.
Abangan ang iba pang mga storya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng NET25 World News. Wala pong bibitiw, magbabalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Tayo ngayong linggo kasama ang MVP sa basketball na si Benji Paras. Bago pa siya maka 3 points sa kanyang career, grabe na ang pagdribble sa kanya ng buhay. Sobrang nahirapan habang lumalaki. Siksikan sa apartment na tinitirhan. Hagdanan ang kanilang dining table. Tinutulungan ng coach at mga kaklase para makaraos lang sa pag-aaral. Paano siya naging star player? At paano nakapasok naman at naging sikat bilang komedyante sa showbiz? Ang playoff ng buhay ni Benji at marami pang iba dito lang sa Corina Interviews ngayong linggo, 6 p.m. sa NET25.
Together sa NET25.
Pakistan's truck drivers adore their painted lorries.
Bicycles with motors, a huge market for the bicycle industry, and a chance to save CO2. They are already all the rage in Germany. Rev.
Bilang bahagi ng Miami Grand Prix ay bumuo ng lifelike models ng mga Formula 1 cars ang Lego Group para dalhin ito sa karera. Ayon sa mga Lego builders, inabot sila ng halos 22,000 hours para mabuo ang 10 F1 cars. Ang team ay binubuo ng 26 na mga designers mula Czech Republic para pagdikit-dikitin ang halos 400,000 Lego bricks. Pinaniniwala ang may timbang ang bawat F1 car nang humigit kumulang 1,000 kilograms at kayang maglakbay sa bilis na 20 kilometers per hour. Umaasa naman ang Cladno Factory, ang team na may hawak sa proyekto na magiging daan ang mga models na ito sa mga fans na mapapalapit pa sa Lego building.
Eto naman po, nahuli na ang nagnakaw ng sausage mula sa isang kindergarten student, ang pinakaunang police corgi ng China at sa gitna pa mismo ng kanyang patrol duty. At dahil dito ay binigyan ng aso na kinilala bilang si Fuzai ng reprimand dahil sa ipinakita nitong maling asal. Sumailalim din si Fuzai sa masinsinang training para tanggihan ang mga sausages. Subalit sa huli ay nabigo ang handler ni Fuzai. Siguro ang sarap kasi ng Nina, no? Kaya bilang Plan B ay binisita nila ang bata para humingi ng paumanhin. Binigyan naman ng 2 sausages at isang merchandise ang bata bilang peace offering. Sa huli ay binigay naman ng bata ang isa sa mga sausages nito kay Fuzai na ikinatuwa siyempre ng aso.
Ay, ang cute ni Fuzay.
Nina,
Yun.
habang nagbabalita ako, para naglalaway ako. Alam mo na kung anong midnight snack ko,
Ay,
ma'am.
oo nga. Pero swinerte na ako dahil nakapag-sausage ako kaninang lunch.
Anong klaseng sausage?
Beef franks na maliliit na ganun. Na very light lang yung taste niya. Ha? Kasi baka sabihin naman, nagpo-promote tayo ng processed food. Hindi po. Ito ay mga, syempre, klase-klase pa din yan eh. Kailangan alam mong piliin yung mas mabuti sa kalusugan.
Syempre, pero talaga minsan ang sarap naman talong.
Totoo naman
Alam mo,
din.
dito pa
Kaya
lang
nga
sa ating
kanina.
compound, may mga nagbebenta ng mga sausages dyan. So, minsan, pag nag-crave ako, di ba, ka-Irma, Saito, pasuyo naman. Tapos lahat kami dyan sa makeup room, kumakain na ng sausage.
Para damay-damay.
Naalala ko
Sharing is
din
caring.
nung bata ako, since my mom is from Cagayan Valley,
Ay, oh my
naragsak na
gosh,
rabikan niya yun.
sarap.
Yung sausages naman natin, Filipino sausages, is
Oo,
the
ating mga
longganisa.
longganisa. Yan ang favorite ko talaga.
Nako, yun. So, since hindi ako kumakain ng mga taba, si mami talaga, yung
Ay,
ginigiling
ako,
pala, may
taba.
ganyan pa kami noon, yung bata. Tapos, nakakita ka na ba paano gawin ng sausage?
Oo.
Ayun,
Tsaka
so-
kung saan siya nakabalot.
Oo, kung saan siya nakabalot.
Diba?
Ayun. So, nagulat ako paano nakabalot yung sausages. Tapos, ang galing. Yun. Tapos, may sausages. Tapos, di ba yung mga Ilocano nga longganisa? Pero iba-iba rin ha.
Very lean. Actually, mga
lean.
Ilocano longganisa, mataas sa garlic and then mababa sa fat.
napakasarap.
Pero gusto ko rin yung fat paminsan-minsan.
Sa
Hindi
iyo,
po
di ba,
sa
sa
lahat ng
Laguna?
magkakataon.
Sa Cavite kayo
Cavite,
pala.
magagaling din gumawa ng...
Oo.
Pero mas hamonado kasi. So, may
Oo.
tamis-tamis.
May taba din yun sa inyo, no?
Ako, preferably yung hindi katamisan. Yung mga lukban, vegan kalumpito, gigaraw. Naku, pangalanan na yan.
Yung Cagayan Valley
Diba?
na
Yan ang
longganisa.
magdala ka minsan.
Yes,
Bukas na
lean
bukas.
and garlicky.
Ayun, I love lean and garlic.
Ayan, bago po kami tuluyang magutom. Tandaan po ha, na narito kami ni Nina mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes para maghatid ng balita sa amang dako ng mundo. See you tomorrow. Muli, ako po muli, si Ricky Matay. Magandang gabi.
Ako si Nina Richie, Alago Flores. Ito pa rin po ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balita na nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa NET25 World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Dean Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. And we have some news for our kababayans abroad who want to vote in the May 12 midterm elections. Philippine embassies and consulates are letting everyone know that the Commission on Elections has actually extended the online voting enrollment until May 10th. In Beijing, tensions are rising after China issued a strong warning to the United States in response to a new CIA campaign encouraging Chinese officials to spy for Washington.
China will take all necessary measures to resolutely crack down on the infiltration and sabotage activities of anti-China forces abroad, firmly safeguard national sovereignty, and develop security interests.
And the news starts now. Big move out of Asia over the weekend. Japan, China, South Korea, and the 10 ASEAN nations have agreed to beef up their financial safety net. They launched a new lending facility aimed at swiftly responding to crises caused by pandemics and natural disasters. The finance leaders of the so-called ASEAN Plus 3 group agreed at their meeting in Milan, Italy on Sunday to establish the new facility under their currency swap arrangement known as the Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, or CMIM. The CMIM, created after the 1997-98 Asian financial crisis, is designed to support regional financial stability by allowing members to tap currency swap lines. The new rapid financing facility will enable members to access emergency financing without conditions in case of financial crisis arising from sudden shocks. The CMIM pool currently amounts to $240 billion in foreign exchange reserves, with Japan and China each contributing $76.8 billion, South Korea $38.4 billion, and the 10 Association of Southeast Asian Nations members a combined $48 billion. The CMIM's two existing facilities, a crisis resolution instrument and a precautionary line, have never been utilized as members have turned to other resources with simpler decision-making processes such as bilateral swap lines. Supporters of senatorial candidate Rodante Marcoleta arrived early at the Philippine Arena complex, traveling by buses, jeeps, and private cars. Now they gathered for his grand meeting, the Avance, one of the final campaign events before the upcoming Monday elections. Many attendees came from various provinces to show their support. Among them were senior citizens advocating for better healthcare benefits. Originally planned for Quezon Memorial Circle, the event was relocated to the Philippine Arena and the adjacent Philippine Stadium to accommodate the large crowd. Residents from neighboring towns also attended to demonstrate their backing. Security measures were in place with personnel checking attendees' belongings, managing traffic flow. The NLEX Corporation had previously announced the event, advising motorists of potential delays.
Sana po magkaroon kami ng mga libre medical, yun nga po, yung sa benepisya sa mga senior po.
Ang nakikita ko po sa kanya is maganda ang kanyang hangarin para sa amin ng mga senior citizens. Ay siyempre parang nakita ko sa kanya na maasahan naman siya. At sana maalaala kami ni Marcolita.
Sana ang gusto ko mabigyan niya pansin, mga kababaihan, mga PWD, mga senior citizen.
And we have some news for our kababayans abroad who want to vote in the May 12 midterm elections. Philippine embassies and consulates are letting everyone know that the Commission on Elections has actually extended the online voting enrollment until May 10th. So if you're an overseas Filipino voter and haven't registered your phone yet, now's the time to do it. Our consulate in Milan is even urging everyone to register ASAP and is offering help if you're having trouble. The Chicago consulate also posted about the May 10th deadline. And in South Korea, the embassy is reminding all registered voters to complete that pre-voting enrollment to make sure your online vote counts. Just recently, our embassy in Jordan also held a special mobile registration event to help Filipinos there get set up to vote. In other news tonight, in Beijing, tensions are rising after China issued a strong warning to the United States in response to a new CIA campaign encouraging Chinese officials to spy for Washington. The controversy began when the CIA released a pair of Mandarin language videos on social media last week. The videos, which quickly went viral, openly invite Chinese officials to share state secrets with the CIA, promising them safety and a better future if they cooperate. And the agency says it's trying to reach out to those who may be disillusioned with President Xi Jinping's government. CIA Director John Ratcliffe defended the move, saying, "Our agency must continue responding to this threat with urgency, creativity, and grit. And these videos are just one of the ways we are doing this," unquote. He called China's America's most formidable strategic competitor and said the CIA is ramping up its focus on Beijing. China, however, is not taking this lightly.
For a long time, the United States has used various despicable means to steal secrets of other countries, interfere in other countries' internal affairs, and subvert other countries' regimes, which seriously violates international law and basic norms of international relations and seriously endangers international security and stability. The video released by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency on social media is another self-confession with solid evidence. The United States not only maliciously smears and attacks China, but also blatantly deceives and lures Chinese personnel to turn side, and even directly targets Chinese government officials. This is a serious violation of China's national interests and a naked political provocation. China strongly condemns this. China will take all necessary measures to resolutely crack down on the infiltration and sabotage activities of anti-China forces abroad, firmly safeguard national sovereignty, and develop security interests.
The European Union is standing firm against pressure from Washington, with EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic making it clear that the bloc will not be pushed into an unfair trade deal with the U.S. Sefcovic told the European Parliament that while the EU's preferred outcome is a negotiated settlement, he said this.
We do not feel weak. We do not feel under undue pressure to accept the deal, which would not be fair for us. We are absolutely clear that we are the biggest trading bloc on this planet, with very strong economy and with very biggest actually the network of our free trade agreements. And we know that this negotiation might not in the end succeed despite of all our sincere efforts. So therefore, we of course are preparing for the possible and might be needed rebalancing.
Currently, U.S. tariffs cover about 70% of EU goods traded with the U.S., and that figure could rise to 97% as the Trump administration considers expanding tariffs to sectors like pharmaceuticals and semiconductors.
So the EU has made clear that we are ready to discuss and we are ready to find mutually beneficial solutions respecting our interest and regulatory autonomy. We now need the US to show its readiness to make progress towards a fair and balanced solution. And I have already shared the approach with my US counterparts as a basis for further engagement. But if our talks with the US do not yield the necessary result, we will be ready for alternative, with the aim of restoring a level playing field. Therefore, we are also using the 90-day pause to continue our preparation for further rebalancing measures to counter the multitude of additional US tariffs on EU exports.
And now to the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin said that Russian forces still planned to cease fire in Ukraine from May 8 to the 10th, as per President Vladimir Putin's orders, but would respond if Ukrainian forces tried to strike Russian positions. President Putin on April 28 declared a 3-day ceasefire to mark the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies over Nazi Germany in World War II. The Kremlin said the 72-hour ceasefire would run on May 8th to May 9th, when Putin will host international leaders on Moscow's Red Square, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, and May 10. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has so far appeared to rule out such a brief ceasefire, saying he's only ready to sign up to a ceasefire that would last at least 30 days, an idea Putin has said needs a lot of work before it could become a reality. Asked what Russia would do if Zelensky did not sign up to the 3-day ceasefire, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said this.
Огонь будет прекращен, но в случае, если взаимности со стороны...
The fire will be ceased, but if there is no reciprocity from the side of the Kiev regime and attempts to attack our positions or our facilities continue, appropriate response will be given immediately. For now, we can add that, unfortunately, we still have not heard from Kiev, from representatives of the regime, from the head of the regime. We have not heard a single statement talking about readiness to join this holiday time truce.
Шла бы речь о готовности присоединиться к этому праздничному перемирию.
Tensions are escalating in the Middle East, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signaling a significant expansion of military operations in Gaza. And we're learning that his security cabinet has approved plans for an intensive offensive, potentially including control of the Gaza Strip and aid distribution. But as we'll hear, this move is sparking fierce opposition both within Israel and from international aid organizations. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
Last night, we stayed up late in the cabinet and decided on an intensified operation in Gaza. It was the Chief of Staff's recommendation to proceed, as he put it, towards the defeat of Hamas. And along the way, he believes this will also help us rescue the hostages. And I agree with him. We are not letting go of this effort, and we will not give up on anyone.
The decision to step up military action in Gaza comes after weeks of failed attempts to agree to a ceasefire with Hamas. To carry this out, the military has called up tens of thousands of reservists. But the plan is not sitting well with many Israelis. In Jerusalem, protesters clashed with police as they voiced their opposition to Netanyahu's plans. Protester Ifat Gadot says Netanyahu is just trying to hang on to power.
Now, Bibi, a corrupt and criminal leader, which only wants to stay in his throne. He only wants to be in reign. And he doesn't care if Israel burns to the ground on the way. He is sacrificing the hostages. He is sacrificing our sons and daughters, which are combat soldiers, which are going into Gaza and will die in vain only for his reign.
At the Israeli parliament, the families of the hostages wandered through the building's corridors and attended legislative committee meetings. They are urging the government to stop the war and reach a ceasefire which includes the release of the remaining hostages, dead or alive. These relatives fear the stepped-up military action will put the lives of the remaining hostages at risk.
Hearing that we're going back to war is not what we wanted to hear. We have seen that hostages die during warfare. We know that the deceased hostages might get lost as the bombing continues, and we are dreading this moment.
All the families are very scared about this new maneuvering because there's no guarantee that it will get us to where the families want and the people of Israel, which is the return of the last hostage.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated, and now Israel wants to transfer the handling of humanitarian aid to private companies instead of relying on international aid groups and UN organizations. It argues this will keep the aid from falling into the hands of Hamas. But the UN says that plan contravenes humanitarian principles. UN spokeswoman Olga Sharevko says having Israel control aid is a recipe for disaster and could put those helping out in harm's way.
This contravenes humanitarian principles, as this would basically shut down the existing aid delivery mechanism that already operates within the bounds of humanitarian principles. This would violate the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence, and could also put people at risk by including aid workers, by having them around these militarized zones.
With aid virtually cut off, Gazans struggle to survive. There's no food, no water, no medicine, and no aid is reaching them. Store shelves are empty. Children carry empty pots with the hope of finding something, anything, to put in them to ease the hunger pangs.
The situation here is extremely difficult. The children are exhausted from hunger, and we adults can't even walk in the streets. There is no medicine, no flour, and vegetable prices are very high. A single tomato costs 5 shekels, as does an onion. Life here is extremely harsh. We appeal to the Arab countries and the world to look at us, save us. We in Gaza are perishing and dying from hunger.
Since the war began, Palestinian health agencies say Israel's ground and air operations have killed more than 52,000 people, most of them civilians. For those who have survived the devastation of their territory and are now living in the harshest of conditions, peace seems as far off as ever. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
In a move to combat international cybercrime, the U.S. Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on a Myanmar warlord, his 2 sons, and the militia they lead for orchestrating large-scale online scams, human trafficking, and cross-border smuggling operations. The U.S. just slapped some serious sanctions on a Myanmar warlord, Sao Chit-tu, along with his sons and his militia, the Karen National Army. Why? According to the Treasury, this group is deep into some really bad stuff, running cyber crimes that target Americans, plus being major players in human trafficking and smuggling. The UN has warned about this kind of trafficking in Southeast Asia, where people are forced into these online scam operations. And the Karen National Army's base, a so-called special economic zone called Shwe Ko Ko on the Thai-Myanmar border, is where the U.S. says they actually lease land and provide security for compounds where these trafficked folks are forced to carry out those online scams. Staying in Southeast Asia, you know some governments change hands every few years, but not in Singapore. The People's Action Party has just won again, marking over 6 decades of continuous rule. And with that, a strong mandate for their new leader, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Take a look. In Washington, major changes are underway at the Pentagon. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered a 20% reduction in the number of 4-star generals and admirals, the highest ranks in the U.S. military, deepening a wave of cuts that's shaking up the Department of Defense at the start of President Trump's second term. Take a look. Hegseth, who's been outspoken about what he sees as bloated senior leadership, laid out the policy in a memo in a video posted on X, saying,
"We're back with more DoD reforms. This one is General and Flag Officer Reductions. That's the official title. My title is Less Generals, More GIs. It's a historic one, and it's in keeping with President Trump's commitment to achieving peace through strength. We're going to shift resources from bloated headquarters elements to our warfighters." Let's take a bit of a trip down memory lane. In history, when we were fighting across the globe during World War II, it used to be a ratio of 1 general to 6,000 troops. Today, it's 1 general to 1,400. More generals and admirals does not equal more success.
He emphasized this wasn't about punishing top brass, adding,
"Now, this is not a slash and burn exercise meant to punish high-ranking officers. Nothing could be further from the truth. This has been a deliberative process, working with the Joint Chiefs of Staff with one goal: maximizing strategic readiness and operational effectiveness by making prudent reductions in the general and flag officer ranks."
And the cuts don't stop there. Hegseth's memo also calls for a minimum 20% reduction in the number of general officers in the National Guard and an additional 10% cut among general and flag officers across the military. Since taking office, Hegseth has already removed several top military leaders, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Navy's top admiral, and the director of the National Security Agency. But not everyone is on board. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, voiced skepticism, saying Hegseth has a track record of firing military leaders without a cause.
Secretary's inner circle of hand-picked advisors have nearly all resigned or been fired. His chief of staff was dismissed amid allegations of incompetence and unsettling personal behavior. 3 of his senior policy advisors were fired for allegedly leaking sensitive information, which they all staunchly denied. And his top spokesman resigned after losing confidence in the secretary and writing, and I'll quote, "The building is in disarray under Hegseth's leadership." And furthermore, quote, "The last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon, and it's becoming a real problem for the administration." And this was the words of Secretary Hegseth's self-selected top spokesperson. This chain of events is extraordinary and underscores the concerns I raised at Secretary Hegseth's nomination hearing. He does not possess the temperament and management skills needed to lead the Pentagon, and he's proving that over and over.
A diplomatic row has erupted between Germany and key members of the Trump administration after Berlin officially labeled the far-right AfD party a confirmed right-wing extremist group. Now, the move announced by the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution gives German authorities expanded powers to surveil the AfD, including using informants, wiretaps, and undercover operations nationwide. The classification made by Germany's domestic intelligence agency, the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, has drawn sharp criticism from prominent U.S. conservatives, including former Vice President J.D. Vance, former Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and tech billionaire Elon Musk. Let's start with Secretary Rubio's reaction. He took to X, formerly Twitter, condemning the move as tyranny in disguise, claiming Germany has effectively given its spy agency expanded powers to surveil a legitimate opposition party. He said, Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to surveil the opposition. That's not democracy. It's tyranny in disguise. What is truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which took second in the recent election, but rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policies that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. Germany's foreign ministry responded swiftly and firmly, directly replying to Rubio's post on X with a simple, "This is democracy." They emphasized that the BFV's decision followed a thorough and independent investigation intended to protect Germany's constitutional order. The criticism didn't stop with Rubio. Vice President J.D. Vance also weighed in, claiming on X that the Berlin Wall was being rebuilt by German elites, not by Soviets or Russians. Tesla CEO Elon Musk echoed Vance's sentiments, reposting his comments and adding, "Fate loves irony." It's worth noting that Musk previously expressed support for the AfD, hosting a live stream conversation with party leader Alice Weidel. While the BFV's reclassification of the AfD represents a significant escalation, the agency had already labeled the party a suspected threat in certain eastern states.
The AfD represents an ethnic concept that discriminates against entire population groups. Citizens with a history of migration are treated as second-class Germans. This clearly contradicts the guarantee of human dignity in Article 1 of the Constitution. Their nationalist attitude is reflected in racist statements, especially against immigrants and Muslims.
This new nationwide designation allows authorities to use informants, wiretaps, and undercover surveillance against the party. Unsurprisingly, AfD leaders are condemning the classification, calling it politically motivated and vowing to challenge it in court. A spokesperson confirmed they've lodged a challenge with the administrative court in Cologne. Here's a statement from the AfD leaders Alice Weidel and Tino Tripala. Current polls show the AfD as the strongest force. The federal government only has 4 days left in office. The intelligence service doesn't even have a president, and the classification as a suspected case hasn't been finalized in court. The AfD will continue to illegally defend itself against these defamatory attacks that endanger democracy. This transatlantic clash continues to intensify as both the U.S. and Germany navigate internal political shifts amid rising tensions between Washington and its European partners. It's goodbye to an old friend in the world of online communication. Today was the final day for Skype, the video calling service many of us used for years. Its parent company, Microsoft, has decided to shut it down for good, pushing users towards their newer platform, Microsoft Teams. Even a UNESCO World Heritage Site isn't immune to the power of nature. Over the weekend, hundreds of tourists visiting Jordan's ancient city of Petra had to be evacuated. Heavy rainfall led to significant flooding within the archaeological site, as you can see in this video of water rushing through the iconic treasury. Jordanian authorities made the decision to temporarily close the site on Sunday afternoon. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Trask Construction, your trusted partner in hospital building.
I had tuberculosis, but I got better. It was later that I heard I had silicosis. Perilous poverty. Women in India are risking their lives to earn a pittance. Can anyone help them?
Global Us.
Now, Now, ever wondered if robots could truly learn and adapt like living beings? Well, a Swedish AI startup says they've just taken a giant leap in that direction. They've created a robot dog named Luna, and they claim it has a digital nervous system that functions surprisingly like ours. Take a look.
This is Luna. Though the robot dog may look like other mechanical canines, Luna is a bit different. It has a functional digital nervous system and can learn and adapt like humans and many animals, according to Intuicell, the company behind the bot. The firm says that could help future robots solve problems in dangerous places, like Mars. Victor Luthman is the CEO and co-founder of the Swedish AI startup.
There's no billion-dollar data center in the background. There's no pre-training on massive amounts of data. There's no offline simulations. We have created the first software that allows any machine to learn like humans and animals do.
Luna is one of the first use cases of physical agentic AI, which can make decisions and take actions towards specific goals, rather than just perform narrow tasks or generate content. In other words, the robot dog would be able to learn like a real dog. For instance, instead of a generative AI model and vast datasets, Intuicell will hire a dog trainer to teach Luna to walk.
Right now, Luna is like a headless chicken. So we tell her to stand. She has a target height and a balance that she wants to reach, but she has no idea how to do it. She autonomously figures out how to control her body in the environment, and she learns through those interactions. That's her input to the system.
While Luna can currently stand up on its feet, the robot dog would perceive, process, and improve through direct interactions with the world.
And to put that in perspective, you can imagine a newborn giraffe on the savannah or a newborn baby.
Lothman said the next step is exploring human-like robots in unpredictable environments, such as space exploration, deep sea exploration, or disaster response. Intelligent machines could be sent to Mars, for example, to build future habitats for people, Luthman said.
It's impossible to train them on everything that might happen while they're there. They need to be able to figure things out and to experiment in that environment. So this is the technology that will allow any agent to do such exploration.
Intuicell is funded by venture capital firms in Sweden and Norway, as well as the European Union.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by Hyla Philippines. With Hyla,